Chara Shukshravana Chinna Viruda Vasamanam Nagatpa Nimata Vasanam Neva Ganayan Rivashariram Kritodaka Punam Utsasaja. Remaining in that ashram, the great king Bharat Maharaj was now very careful not to fall victim to bad association. Without disclosing his task to anyone, he remained in that ashram and ate dry leaves only. He was not exactly alone, for he had the association of the super soul. In this way he waited for death in the body of a deer. Bathing in that holy place, he finally gave up that body. So, Bharat Maharaj had given up the association of his family members in the form of deer family. Does not matter whether you are a deer or a people. The family ties are very strong, and one wants to remain in that family situation for a long period of time. One doesn't want to get out of the family situation. But now Bharat Maharaj, who is now a deer, it's kind of difficult to talk about Bharat Maharaj in the form of a deer. Because deers are deer. Maharaj is Maharaj. He's now a deer. So he remembered everything by the grace of the Lord and by the power of his previous devotional service. Previously he was engaged fully in devotional service, and because of that he was able to remember everything of his former life. He was able to remember why he fell down. He was able to remember oh, this is too much work. Everybody's spread out so far. Nobody thinks about this. The other second, you gotta go. So anyway, Bharat Maharaj, he, although had become fully engaged in devotional service, he became attached to an insignificant deer. This deer had no value in life, no value. It's just a stupid deer, a little baby deer, no greater intelligence, just a deer. He's an animal. Animals understand things only by the way they smell. Animals have no higher intelligence than that. They understand things like that. They have no clear intelligence whatsoever. They're animals. Their business is simply eating, sleeping, mating, defending themselves. Now, Bharat Maharaj unfortunately became attached to that deer. So he became an animal. But he never forgot his devotional practices of the previous lifetime, and he repented very much. He was repenting. He was saying, oh, what a fool I was. Oh, what a fool I am. Having given up the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the sake of accepting some deer as my companion. And now I am falling down again into the condition of material existence because I am forgetting about these services. After all, when you're in the body of a deer, it's not very easy to take up devotional service. Devotional practices which are given in the Vedic literature are not meant for deers, they're meant for people. Therefore, it's tough when you're a deer to take up devotional practices. But Bharat Maharaj was trying anyway, even as a deer. The first thing he did was give up the association of his mother deer, which is very, very hard for those who are taking birth For them, mother is everything. When the child is there, and the mother can do practically everything with the child. Pick him up, put him on the shoulder, put him on the back, carry him here and there. The child doesn't mind things. This is fine. His mother anyway is taking care of me, so whatever she does is okay by me. So with one with such trusting and loving relationship, then all of a sudden it's very difficult. Of course, for Bharat Maharaj it wasn't that difficult. After all, he knew he wasn't a deer, and the deer mother wasn't his mother. This is all temporary business of the material world. Therefore, he just got up and left as soon as he could walk properly. It takes a little while to get the legs working. So, when the legs were working properly, and he understood fully the situation, he just walked away. I'm sure his mother deer was very disturbed. How is this? My baby has already walked away. But he went right to the ashram of Pulaha. Pulasya. These are great sages. Pulaha ashram is the ashram of Pulaha Rishi. And in the place where he was before, engaged in the same way at the mouth of the Gandaki River where the Shalagram Shilas are picked out. Bharat Maharaj, now in the form of a deer, took up very nicely spiritual practices again, and was eating only dry leaves and avoiding all bad association. It is stated here. He didn't disclose his past to anyone. Now one may ask how a deer is going to disclose anything to anybody. Who's going to understand what a deer says? But great sages and saintly personalities, especially of the Vedic era like this, had so much power they could understand immediately what is what in any particular situation. Just by their power alone, they could understand immediately what was going on. But in this case, Bharat Maharaj also had some power. So he kept his situation hidden. He didn't want anybody to know exactly how it was that he became like this. But still, obviously these sages knew this was somebody special. But he stayed in that ashram, and he became very careful not to fall victim of bad association. This is one of the most important principles of spiritual life. Not to be victimized by bad association. One should always maintain the association of devotees of the Lord. One should always want to be together with devotees and avoid association with non-devotees whose only purpose in life is simply to enjoy the material body and its senses. Those who are interested just in the body and senses, their association is to be avoided more than even a cage full of tigers. Because a cage full of tigers can only eat you up. That's not so bad. As compared to falling down from the spiritual platform and the bad association of materialists, because such association of materialists can cause the whole destruction of one's spiritual life. At least if the body is destroyed, you can get another one if you need it. But if your whole spiritual practice is destroyed, it's not like you can just pick up another one next lifetime so easily. As we find from this example, it is not that devotees don't ever take positions in the lower species. It's possible. For punishment purposes. Also for training and learning purposes. For training and learning purposes, those who are not acting very properly may take up a position in lower species. But while they're in that position, they don't forget their real business, which is that they have to surrender somehow. I might have mentioned it before, but for those of you who haven't heard, there's one example in Vrindavan. There are many examples, but you get to know who's in what body just by seeing. Just just like we say, the sages knew this deer was special. So we also had such an experience in Vrindavan once. When we were building the Krishna Balaram temple, we stayed there for some months. So in that place, there was one dog who had very bad lung problems. He was always wheezing. We called it wheezing. You know what wheezing is? He was like this. And he was limping. But he was very attached to devotees. And he only wanted to stay on our land. So, formerly, one of our main occupations was to chase all the dogs off of the land, because there were all the time dogs everywhere. It gets a little ridiculous. So, but this dog, after a while, when we chase him off, he would look at us like, please don't chase me off. I wanted to stay here with you. And then we kind of caught on after a while. This was a special dog, so he could stay. But all the other dogs, they had to go, because they were just plain old dogs. But this dog was a special dog. He was like a people dog. And we could see that actually this dog was a fallen devotee. Everybody could see it clearly. This dog was a devotee who somehow fell down into this condition. And now wanted to stay together with the devotees. So we would take care of him, give him prashana. It's okay. One day we didn't see him anymore. He's just gone. So we hoped that he attained proper destination. In Vrindavan, that is also the case. When you are like a Goswami in Vrindavan or something like this, and you act in an improper way, these caste Goswamis don't take care of the place or act foolishly, then what happens is that for one life you may be punished as a hog or a dog in Vrindavan. So that's not so bad, because after one life of punishment in a hog or dog body, then you go back to Godhead. So it is not very nice to be born as a hog or a dog. But in order to purify one from these sinful reactions that may have accumulated, then one has to take this body. But anyone who dies in Vrindavan goes back to God. Such special potency of these holy places. Like, that's why Maharaj went immediately to the ashram of a great sage. It's a holy place. In fact, places become holy because of the association of the persons who are living there. Obviously, Bharat Maharaj, he was avoiding bad association, but where can you get bad association in the ashram of great sages? There is no bad association. But last time there was also no bad association. But he searched out the bad association in the form of this deer. You can even have bad association in the form of an animal. If anyone's associating with an animal all the time, that's also bad association. It'll give them all kinds of trouble. Therefore, we don't associate with anybody, be an animal, insect, a bird, or whatever. Because they have no conception of service to the Supreme Lord. These creatures have no idea of serving Krishna. Animals serving Krishna. How they will serve Krishna. They have no idea whatsoever about serving Krishna. Their conception is eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and that's all. They have no other conception. It's getting too cold for each other. So, animals may be very nice. Like everybody likes his dog. Pet the dog, and the dog jumps up and down and wags his tail. Very happy to see us. Because, after all, we are his master, and every dog likes a master. Therefore, people, they like dogs because sometimes the dog is the only one who's glad to see you. Sometimes people, they're not very glad to see you. They go, oh, him. But the dog, he's always glad to see you anyway. Therefore, people, they'd rather live with their dog than to live with other people. Then by such mentality, then the dog becomes a little bit like a people, and the people become a little bit like a dog. This is the problem. That one has to avoid bad association because the association rubs off according to whom you associate with. You develop qualities like that person. That's a known principle in this world. One thing in association with another thing develops the qualities of the other thing. I can even give you that explanation according to strictly chemical terms. It's like when you associate with the sun in summer, your skin gets brown. If the air simply associates with anything, that thing starts to deteriorate. If water associates with something, that thing starts to become dissolved. So we find that all things are affected by combinations with other things. That's just chemicals. Sooner or later, there's some kind of association that takes place amongst things, and effect is there. Now, when one associates with materialistically minded persons, then he becomes affected, not exactly chemically, but in another way, mentally, by the mentality of such persons. It is stated, Kramatmika Jena Sharira Bandha. Idamano Kramatmika Jena Sharira Bandha. That when one associates with those whose minds are wicked, or whose minds are not very nice, then in that association, one becomes contaminated. And in that contaminated state, falls down off the platform of goodness. In fact, this is the way most persons become contaminated. They aren't in a nice condition, but then they associate with somebody who's not in a nice condition, and you get dirty. It's kind of like if you embrace somebody who's just like full of mud, then you also get all full of mud too. Even though you didn't want, but because you were thinking, I'm trying to be nice. But in such a way you get full of mud too. Similarly, one who maintains the association of persons who are not Krishna conscious, then he gets full of the mud of their mentality. And that's not very nice. Therefore, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we try to create a way in which people may associate with each other and become Krishna conscious. Prabhupada conceived of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. His purpose was clear. He wanted to make an arrangement so that people could associate with devotees of the Lord and become Krishna conscious. That ourselves, we also needed to associate with devotees. Everybody needs to associate with devotees. Devotees should associate with devotees, and non-devotees should also associate with devotees. But not with the idea of the devotee associating with the non-devotee, with the idea of becoming a non-devotee, but with the non-devotee's purpose to associate with devotees to become a devotee. In other words, that when the devotee, he takes up Krishna consciousness, he is able to give his association to the non-devotees. And in that way, these non-devotees become purified. In the association of the devotee, the non-devotee becomes purified. This is the principle of Krishna consciousness. How to purify others in the association with the devotees. So therefore, we live together, we chant together, we read together, we hear Krishna philosophy together, we work together, we eat together, just for the sake of becoming more Krishna conscious. So, sometimes it's also good to live alone too. Better one stays alone than he stays with those who are contaminated. But better still, is to stay with those who are Krishna conscious than to stay alone. Because staying alone is not very nice. One forgets a lot of things. If you're staying alone, then one becomes almost only wrapped up in his own brain. And that's pretty terrible. Can you imagine just associating with your mind? Can't imagine anything worse. It's you and your mind together in a sacred place. That means finished. Okay. But we have a very special case of Bharat Maharaj, who, although in the ashram was staying alone, aloof is a better word. Aloof means not exactly alone, but not connected with others. Aloof. At a distance. Although together, but not exactly together. So, he was not alone. Although it seemed as if he was alone. He was not alone. Because he was associating with the Supersoul. Now this is the real platform that the sannyasis should be on. They should always have the association of the Supersoul. Therefore, they should not worry. They should not be concerned for being alone. In fact, sannyasis are recommended to always be alone. This is the best way to live. Except, fortunately for some, maybe unfortunately for others, when you become guru, then all of the things you renounce, you have to take back again. There are so many children in the form of disciples, and instead of being alone all the time, one has to be always surrounded by all kinds of persons. Every time you open the door, there's a group of people. In fact, the best situation for a sannyasi is to be always alone, and only associating with the Supersoul within the heart. Never associating with anybody. Because generally, the sannyasi's business is to instruct others, because they are all in an inferior position in the social status of things. Therefore, if he's surrounded by others all the time, they will tend to just be like a weight on his consciousness. Therefore, for him it is better to be alone. But when one has to accept others for training purposes, as spiritual master, then immediately has to accept back everything which he had given up. And that is very difficult business. So, except for that case of that sannyasi who's living in the forest, or traveling, or whatever, everybody should have good association. But Bharat Maharaj, he thought best association was association of the Supreme Lord within the heart. And the Supreme Lord within the heart is ready to manifest to one who is fully dependent on him. When you are fully dependent on the Supreme Personality of God, when you are completely attached to Krishna, when you are always thinking of the Lord in the heart, when one is always very much concerned to satisfy Krishna, then at that time, the Lord becomes visible to him in the heart. He may hear him. He may have conversation with him. And the Lord, being in the heart, gives one the direction on how to best act, how to best live, how to best do everything for the advancement in spiritual life. So the Lord is there, ready to help us, but we have to accept that in a proper way. We also have to understand that we have to cooperate with Krishna. Cooperation with Krishna means to act under Krishna's direction. If you want Krishna to help you, then you must act under the direction of Krishna. Whatever it is that Krishna wishes, one must do. One must follow his order and his instruction. Not that one acts whimsically, without any consideration of Krishna's desires. One has to act according to Krishna's desires. That's very important. And then, when one acts in that way, he will actually be able to be freed from the contamination of bad association, because he'll always be associating with the Lord in the heart. And in that way, he won't be contaminated by bad association. And especially one in such a condition, if he then goes to the holy abode of the Lord, one of these sacred places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Hardwar, Rishikesh, Ayodhya, Jagannath Puri. These are special places, Prayag. These are places where devotional service may go on very nicely. Rameshwaram, Ahobala, mentioning all of the different tirthas and kshetras, special places for performance of devotional service. On the full moon eclipse, go to Kurukshetra, Naimisharanya, special forest for hearing the Puranas and spiritual talks. There are many such places in India. In the West, there are no such places. Therefore, we had to create some places. And Prabhupada created some places by ordering his devotees to go and make some Krishna conscious center in different parts of the world. So there, in those places, some Krishna conscious preaching was going on, and therefore the association in those places was purifying. And gradually, more and more, as we install the forms of the Lord in the temple, that place gradually turns into a holy place too. And the association of the devotees in that place is very, very beneficial. And everybody can make a lot of advancement. Even just staying in the temple of the Lord in faraway places like here. There are so many places which are far away from the holy places in India. Further than anyone can imagine. Formerly in the Vedic times they would not come here. It was too far away. Although the Kshatriya race, driven away by Parshuram's chopper, they ran like anything, and they came here to the European countries and established themselves here. This whole European race descended from the Kshatriyas who were chased from India by Parshuram. So our Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give all those persons, descendants of the former Kshatriyas chased by Parshuram, a chance to develop their Krishna consciousness in the association of devotees of the Lord. There are so many ways you can associate, and ways you should not associate too. One can associate with others through words. One can associate with others through physical contact. One can associate with others simply by following the example. There are so many ways in which one may associate with others. But one should learn how to associate with others through the principles of Krishna consciousness and through hearing. Actually, we associate best with others through hearing. By hearing the holy name of the Lord, we associate with Krishna. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, we are associating with Krishna. By taking Krishna's prasadam, we are associating with Krishna. By engaging ourselves in devotional service to Krishna, we are associating with Krishna. By reading these books, Bhagavad Gita, we are associating with Krishna. By seeing the deity or looking at the pictures, we are associating with Krishna. And in this way, gradually, we are becoming more and more purified by associating with Krishna. It's the principle of purification, to associate with Krishna. Krishna is like the sun. Krishna Surya Samamaya Haya Andhakara. Maya is like darkness. When you associate with knowledge or light, you come in contact with Krishna. And when you associate with Krishna in that way, like the sun, Krishna purifies us, but we don't contaminate him. Like there are so many dirty things laying everywhere. But if you leave them out in the sun long enough, they become purified. The sun does not become contaminated. It's far away. It is its rays which are doing the work. And they also don't become contaminated. The sun is always pure. Similarly, if we associate with Krishna, Krishna is always pure. And we become purified. He does not get contaminated. If we associate with impure persons, we become contaminated. But if we associate with Krishna, he doesn't become contaminated by us, because he's always pure and uncontaminable. He's always protected because of his supreme spiritual potency, just like a roaring fire. A raging fire can consume anything. When it's so big fire, you can even melt steel in it. So hot. So, such raging fires, nothing impure can stay before it. Everything is just consumed in a moment and purified in that way. Fire is considered to be one of the purifiers. Fire, wind, water, even earth. These are purifiers, especially fire. Of all the purifiers, fire is the most potent. Water is also a purifier, because after all, if you took a bath in fire, it wouldn't be very practical. So therefore we use water. But of all the purifiers, fire is much more potent than water. Because even if the water is impure, fire can purify it. But water cannot purify fire. In fact, it acts in just the wrong way. So, it is a question of purification. You purify water by boiling it, in case you're wondering how that works. So, the process is that we associate with the supreme, potent, and powerful personality of Godhead, and thus we become purified. And he does not lose his position of being the supreme pure because of that. Therefore, even if you're a deer and you're engaged in devotional service, you'll become purified because of being attached to the personality of Godhead. If you're attached to Krishna in whatever way, you become purified. That's a fact. So now, let us learn the art of becoming purified in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then we'll be able to go back home, back to Godhead, and become very blissful and happy, despite whatever circumstances may be there in this material world. Are there any questions? Yes?
You mentioned Shalam Shilas. What is the difference between the Shalam Shila and deity?
Shalagram Shilas are the Lord self-manifested. And the deities, we request the Lord to come and manifest there. The rules and regulations of the worship are different. Shalagram Shila is small. The deity is usually large. You don't dress the Shilas. You just bathe them nicely and offer mantras and prayers and some prasadam as you would offer for yourself. But for the deity, you have regulated deity worship. Shalagram Shila is meant to be carried around by brahmanas, and so that they can offer worship wherever they are. Those who are engaged in that form of worship.
Shalam Shila is spiritual life.
I don't know. Why not? Are you trying to ask, the sentimental love transform into pure love? Why would you want to do that? Why do we have to transform something which is material into something spiritual? The something spiritual is already there. You can go directly to it. You don't have to waste your time twisting material things up. your question implies that there's already sentiment. Now we have to take this sentiment, which already exists, and twist it in different ways until it becomes pure love. But that's a big trouble. Better you just give up that and directly go to the platform of pure love, of Krishna, by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, etc. And skip this. Instead of starting with something that's already contaminated and trying to purify that, why not go to that which is already there within the heart? Now you can also go that method too, but then it's dangerous because one may become completely captured by sentiment and forget what's the real principle. Captured by sentiment, and start thinking sentiment. What? What's all that?
How the person tells that he's a person.
How should somebody know whether he's a sentimentalist or not? I don't think one should speculate on it. It's not necessary. One should just go on serving, and everything will work out. But if I have to start worrying now, am I a sentimentalist or is this real love? This is too much mental speculation. We should avoid all this mental speculation. Yeah? This is the kind of speculation a sentimentalist loves to do. This is sentiment. This is love. Better to avoid all this stuff. And just serve Krishna. And then naturally pure love will manifest little by little, more and more. You don't have to think about it. Sentimentality you have to think about. Pure love you don't have to think about.
Yes, I saw this when this real love becomes manifested. It's gradually or?
Yes, gradually. Yes.
For example, this is sentimental feeling and then a little feeling on this
But okay, let's accept that somebody's sentimental. Because not everybody's sentimental. Some people are not at all sentimental. They have hearts like stones. So for them, it's different than a person who's sentimental. It's just about everything. Okay? So let's get the distinctions there, because you're making it like some kind of absolute thing. So we're talking about that particular class of person who's sentimental. That particular class of person is sentimental. It is not like there's like sentiment over here and love over here. It's all mixed together. Therefore, it's very dangerous because one can become tricked or fooled by such sentiment, and his sentiments can change. He's not clear. It's this portion or this portion. There's no like delineated portions. It's all mixed. Therefore, it's very dangerous. Your sentiments today say, very good, I serve Krishna. Your sentiments tomorrow say, no good, I don't serve Krishna. So it's not so clear like that. And for such a person, the way in which he will be purified is by serving all the time. And gradually, he will come to such a purified state that he will actually overwhelm all this sentimentality with pure love. And the sentimentality will cease to exist. But until that point, you had better be very, very careful for acting on the platform of sentimentality. Be very, very careful. Not to accept the sentiment as some reality. Understand? One has to be very, very careful.
I wanted to ask, you were speaking about different associations. So I wanted to ask, is associating of woman with a man with a woman, contaminating automatically, even if it is for service? Like, for example, in Sankirtan, or when we have to engage somebody, then we have to associate for some time.
It is always contaminated. There's no way around it. Because women are always acting in such a way that the man is attracted, the man is always acting in such a way that the woman is attracted. That's chemical.
So we should
avoid as much as possible. But when necessary, just for service. That's it. And if it's just for service, then whatever little contamination is there, we can. It's all right. Maybe. The essential difference is the way in which we serve the supreme and the highest platform which may be attained in that service. In this sampradaya, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this sampradaya, there's possibility of attaining the direct service of Radha and Krishna in conjugal love, which was not necessarily there in other sampradayas. There are other very small differences, different ways of looking at it, but it's the same absolute truth. The other sampradayas are still there. Sri Sampradaya is still there, very big in South India. Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, Ruja Sampradaya is also still there in South India. And the Kumara Sampradaya of Nimbarkacharya is not very prominent, but there are still followers. These sampradayas are existing all over the universe. Yes, all Vaishnava sampradayas, Krishna is Supreme. It's just a question of how you serve Krishna.
Those who Balaram or only Balaram.
What?
I read in Prabhupada that there is some Vaishnavas who worship Balakrishna.
It's not Balaram.
Or only.
Balakrishna means child Krishna, baby Krishna.
Or only, they worship only Bala.
Bala means boy. The form of the Lord holding up. Bala Krishna.
Or I heard there's only there were Vaishnavas who worship only Radharani, only Balaram, without Krishna.
I've never heard of anybody who only worships Lord Balaram without Krishna. Worshipping Radharani without Krishna, I've never heard of either. There may be Sahajiyas who may worship very strange ways, but that we don't even talk about that. Deviation.
treba oprašavati. Interesno da se to misli samo na deo Indije i na celu zemlju.
I've read books that previously all different kinds of deities were worshipped around everywhere around. So he wanted to know if this was planned previously. This was spoken about India. This is meant for India, or the different deities were worshipped around manifestations, different manifestations.
Around the space?
Around there.
They mean the 12 forms of the Lord, who are
maybe on the 5th canto. I don't know.
the 12 forms. There are 12 forms of the Lord. Translate. There are 12 forms of the Lord, which are in different places around the planet. Yes. Nowadays, we are not aware of where they are outside of India. Wrong answer for the wrong question.
Does it have association with the same person? Automatically brings purification, like automatically brings contamination.
You can reject that. In any case, you can reject purification if you want. You just insist on being a nonsense number one. So it's not automatic. Nothing's automatic. You have to agree with it.
U drugom poglavlju Bhagavad Gita našli da se govori o duhovnoj duši, odnosno prije svega o njenoj vječnosti. Međutim, jedna rečenica glasi: kad jednom nastane, nikad ne prestaje da postoji. Interesira me, je li bilo neki prijevod kad jednom nastane, znaš se govori o nastanju.
Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is where you describe about the spirit soul. And it states in numbers that the spirit soul once exists, never.
No, that's a miswording. The real wording is, never has it come into existence, never, and never shall it cease to exist, and it will always remain existing. That's the way Prabhupada wrote it, so somehow that got twisted up by the editor. This was corrected in the new edition of Bhagavad Gita, according to the way Prabhupada wrote it, so there's no question of having once come into existence. Some editor thought it was more poetic, so he put it like that.
Or it's better than
Push you like what? Just push all the devotees. Or push self. Yes, push self. Very good. Fight Maya. Very good.
for example, in Sankirtan.
That's a very good place to push self.
It's better or
Always better to push. Otherwise, if you just oh, would you like a book, sir? Oh, they wouldn't. All right. La. Be heavy.
It's better for push all day, or it's better than push a little time, hard, and then take a little pause. Break.
This is a very strange question. After all, it's like this. If you want if you're able to work full speed all day. Some people, they have to work all the time, up to the point where they collapse. Some people, I'm also one of those people. Some people, they have to work a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and they don't collapse at all. So it depends on what kind of people you are. So you cannot change your nature like that usually. I mean, you can try. It's tough. So whatever nature you've got, just use common sense. If you're the kind that just goes, boom, falls over. So then when you fall over, all right, then get up and let's go on. And if you're the type who goes nice and easy and okay, let's take it this way. But keep pushing steadily. That's okay too. I would think that a steady kind of a way of doing things is more intelligent. So one should try and do like that. So, but that's also requiring pushing, just a steady pushing. So which type are you?
First, I was all the time push, but now
You were the but you weren't doing the boom. You were just right? Now you go. I guess both of them. Psychiatry, they have this all figured out now called type A personality, type B personality. They say type A personality, which is they get heart attacks all of the time. So he has to adjust himself so that he can survive. But it seems that the best way to do things is steadily, determinedly. That's a very good way of doing things. That gets a good result.